Did you know that you would have got fined for wearing the wrong kind of socks in England back in the day? Yes, you heard it right, and they had a real sock police back then. Welcome to Fashion for All, and today I'm going to talk to you about the evolution of this tiny pair of clothing or even fashion accessory. The term sock itself is derived from the Latin word soccus, which is referred to a loose slipper. The first evidence about the usage of socks was from the caveman drawings from the Stone Age. Unlike its present form, cavemen used animal skin, leaves, or even flowers tied around their feet to withstand extreme cold conditions and to protect their feet. The first written evidence about socks was available to us through an ancient Greek poet named Hesiod, who wrote about something called piloi in the poem Works and Days in the 8th century BC. Piloi was a type of foot covering made from matted hair and was worn under sandals. It was around the 2nd century AD when the Romans took the ancient piloi concept a step further, wrapping their feet in strips of leather or woven fabric. The Roman attempts at sock were known at the time as udons. They were the first sock-like item to resemble what we wear nowadays. It was back in 300 to 500 AD when the first actual knit sock were being made in the ancient Egypt. Design was unique in that each sock had split toes which permitted them to be worn with the sandals. The technique used to create these socks were called nail binding. Ancient Egyptians had a major impact on the evolution of socks as they introduced new weaving techniques and dyeing. Gaiters were used to hold them in place as elastic hadn't invented yet. It was at about the year 1000 when the knit and woven socks became accepted as luxury items and being developed as such in Europe. Socks were a status symbol of nobility throughout Europe as they were quite expensive to purchase. Due to the price and limited access to socks, the European working class started knitting their own version of these clothing items. In the 15th century, French and Italian aristocrats were becoming the leaders with fine hand-knit silk stockings. Men discovered that these tight-fitting garments that resembled today's leggings permitted ease of movement and emphasized shapely legs. And yes, men were the primary users. Laws in the 1500s were in place to ensure that no one wore the wrong kind of socks in London, England. In those days, you couldn't get away with wearing bright orange or sunflower yellow socks or a nifty pair of spotty dots. You would have been locked up for real. In 1589, an English clergyman named William Lee pushed the history of sock with the invention of the first knitting machine. Lee gifted a pair of socks to the Queen and requested for the patent. But Lee didn't get the approval due to two main reasons. One, the Queen didn't like the wool stockings as they were uncomfortable for her. Two, she didn't like the idea that machine could probably take away the jobs who had been hand knitting before the machine was invented. So she nixed it. But financial support came from a different source and a different location. It was King Henry IV of France who saw what kind of opportunity Lee's machine presented, and the inventor moved to France to open a factory. The knitting loom led to more factories across Europe, and so socks made of wool for the working class and socks made of colored silk for noblemen. Socks was now spreading like wildfire, and this marked the beginning of automated sock manufacturing. Sock fashion continued to evolve over the next few years. Then, in the 17th century, cotton was used for socks. The abundance of this natural material allowed every style of sock and every shade. Enter the Industrial Revolution. This was when progress of all kinds took a major leap. The production of socks was now happening with ease thanks to the circular looms. It also brought wider access to socks of all kinds. At this time, trousers once again got longer and socks got shorter. And what had formerly been known as a stocking was now being called a sock. But the evolution of this garment did not stop there. In 1938, the invention of nylon introduced a new element to many clothing items. A nylon-cotton blend was what the new socks were made of. The addition of elastane or elastic ended up changing the future of socks once again to where they could have been comfortably worn without the need of gaiters. Who would have thought that something created out of animal skin or plant life would end up filling our sock drawers at home? Thanks to the invention of knitting machine, cotton, nylon and elastic. Fashion for all, follow for more.